Hello everyone, I'm Lasantha Senanayake, a graduate student from Narrative Intelligence Lab of University of Kentucky, and I'm here with my supervisor Dr. Stephen Ware, and I'm going to present our research on fog-of-war pruning algorithm. We got this idea from strategy games that utilizes fog-of-war like StarCraft and Age of Empires. In games, fog-of-war refers to a gameplay mechanic that hides parts of the map or information about enemy units from the player until they are explored or within a certain visibility range, simulating limited knowledge of the game world. If we talk about related work, the first related work is by Ware and Farrell, who used salience on how memorable an event is as a cost function in narrative planning. Our method is similar but simpler. By et al., modeled focalization or limiting the story to a single character's viewpoint, fog-of-war pruning does this by focusing only on the protagonist's perspective. Finally, Bonnet and Gaffner worked on planning under partial observability, where the agent doesn't see the whole world. Our approach parallels that idea by restricting the planner's knowledge to what the protagonist knows. Narrative planning is the process of generating sequences of actions that form coherent and goal-oriented narratives. This makes the story graph generated by Sabre very large, even for very small and simple narratives. With small plans will generate millions of nodes or states. And searching through that story graph to find a solution or a plan is very hard. So our idea is to speed up the search process by pruning the search space using our algorithm. Before getting into anything, I want to explain how Sabre keeps track of the actions. Sabre actually uses actions that are written like this in Sabre language form. All the actions have names and each action has entities involved in that action which describes the action. So let's move on to the algorithm. To fog-of-war to work, we introduce a scene set and we initialize the set with the protagonist or the protagonists of this story. And fog-of-war algorithm will work like this. When the algorithm evaluating an action in a plan, it looks at the entities involved, and if at least one of the entities involved in the action is already in the scene set, we add all the other entities to the scene set. Otherwise, it will prune that whole plan that action is involved with. So to explain it a little further, with the example, the grandma example, initially all the entities in the story is under the fog-of-war except Tom, the protagonist Tom, because Tom is in the scene set. Let's take this plan generated by Sabre. Now our pruning algorithm tests whether this partial plan should be pruned or not. We take the first action and we check if there is at least one entity that is in the scene set that I introduced earlier. Here, Tom is in the scene set, so we continue by adding the other entities that are involved in that action to the scene set, which are Cottage and Crossroads. Now, whatever in the scene set is seen by search, which is like revealing what is under the fog-of-war. So let's continue to the next action. Now scene set has already been updated after the first action. Crossroads is already in the scene set. So we add the bandit and the camp to the scene set. So it looks like we lift in the fog, revealing what is the bandit and the camp. So you can see how it works. Now let's take an example which Fog of War will prune a plan. Let's take another plan, and the initial scene set is Tom. Here, none of the entities in the first action is in the scene set. So this plan will be pruned by the algorithm and will not be further extended. It is like all the entities that are in that action are still under the fog. What we are trying to do is that to keep the search space to entities which search already have seen and entities that interact with what search space already is explored, especially at the beginning of planning. So let's move on to results. We have used 12 different small to medium-sized domains that we used in this research to benchmark Sabre. Fog of War can be used in any planner configuration, so we tested the pruning algorithm with search strategies paired with classical planning heuristics like H+, Hmax, and relax plan heuristics. For example, A star can be paired with H+, Hmax, or relax plan heuristic, or not use any heuristic. And any of those configurations can use Fog of War pruning. So we tested all those configurations with Fog of War, and as the baseline, we tested all the configurations without the Fog of War. We ran those different configurations in all 12 domains 10 times each. For those 12 domains, several define multiple problems that can be solved by specifying higher order utility thresholds for the search. For example, Grandma Annie sets the author utility threshold for a solution to 1, which will accept any story where Tom dies or succeeds on his mission. Grandma Win sets a threshold to 2, which only accepts stories where Tom succeeds. In total, we evaluated 26 narrative planning problems, which give us 312 test points to compare. We compare the results by grouping them by planner configurations and group them by problem. And we used 4 main metrics to compare the Fog of War variance with the baseline: number of problems solved, number of unique problems solved, number of nodes visited, and the time taken. And we color coded them so it's easier to interpret. As you can see, we group the data here by planner configurations. On the left side, you see the non-Fog of War variance or the baseline, and on the right in green, red, and yellow, the Fog of War variance. Green means improvement, yellow means no change, and red means decrease in performance. Many data points are green, so our results show that Fog of War pruning improves the planner performance for most configurations. Out of the 12 search types, breadth first search and all of the goal first search variants profit the most, specifically in goal first search with Hmax, and goal first search with H+. The number of nodes visited falls by 65 to 83%, and runtime drops by a similar margin, while each variant solves between 1 and 5 more unique problems than the baseline. Fog of War pruning is less beneficial to EFS search variants. Basic EFS EFSH Max, and EFS Relax Plan variants all solve fewer unique problems compared to the baseline, indicating that pruning may be occasionally cut off valid explanations that these planners rely on. We categorized every planner on that problem here in this table. Across the benchmark suite, Fog4 pruning improves both nodes visited and runtime for the majority of problems. In large narrative spaces like Deer Hunter Both, Fantasy All, and Jailbreak Revenge, 3 to 5 additional planners now find solutions, and in some problems, these gains come with dramatic speedups. Deer Hunter Both cuts the node expansion by 65%, and runtime is reduced by 98% in comparable runs. Some problems display the opposite behavior. The 2 basketball problems and Space All loses 25 to 40 successful runs with Fog4 pruning. If we break down the performance of Fog4 in success rate, in 25 cases, Fog4 pruning improves the success rate, and in 18 cases, the problems that were unsolvable without pruning are now 100% solvable with pruning. But in 15 cases, success rate decreased, and in 7 cases, fully solvable problems became unsolvable. Across all planners, the total number of nodes visited dropped from about 11.8 million in the baseline with no pruning to 7.5 million with pruning, and total runtime roughly halved. Pruning allowed planners to solve more problems. Cumulatively, pruning solved 220 of 312 unique tasks versus the baseline's 209. In many cases, with Fog4 pruning, the search visited fewer nodes in less time while often solving more unique problems. Fog4 comes with limitations as well. Fog4 can cause a solvable problem to become unsolvable. This happens when, for example, a story requires an important but unobserved event to happen at the start of the story. Consider the space domain where protagonist Zoe starts in her starship and wants to explore a nearby but geologically unstable planet. For the easiest solution, where we try to achieve author utility of 1, it seems like this solution cannot be found by Fog4 pruning because it does not involve Zoe. However, we were pleasantly surprised to discover that this limitation is not as problematic as we first suspected. While the previous 2-action solution would indeed get pruned, this 3-action solution can still be found for that. This plan achieves the author utility of 2, so it can still be found using Fog4 as a solution for the easiest version of the space domain, where we try to achieve author utility of 1, though it takes more time and nodes to find. Fog4 pruning can also hinder proactive mediation because the pruning selects the actions that are intersect the player's current scene set up steps that would prevent future problems like staging an item, relocating an agent, or triggering an environment change are usually pruned. So as future work, we think Fog4 produces more salient stories by pruning any action that involves a person, place, or object outside the player's known set. The planner naturally produces plans that are better explained from the protagonist's viewpoint. We aim to test whether Fog4 pruning improves narrative quality and whether it leads to more believable character behavior in games and simulations. Thank you. You can find the repo for this project on this GitHub link.